And we say asuyutit for hello.
This is how you say hello in Mi'kmaq. We. Ganche. Ganche.
Southern Shoshone.
How you say hello in our language is Sagoli, or Sagoli Swagege for everyone.
How you say hello in Blackfoot is Ukki. We are from Cochiti Pueblo. Goetze Hopa.
Kolamalsi. Yep, that's how you say hello. Dante. Yeah, Dante.
This is how you say hello in Ojibwe, Ani. This is how we say hello in Tansi.
Saigon.
Scano. Buju.
Inu, and to say hello is Atili Hai.
And how do you spell it?
I have no sweet clue.
Gwe, Nindilawisi Tanner Isaac. Hey there. My name is Tanner Isaac. I'm from Listaguch Mi'kmaq First Nation, and I'm a journalist here at CBC Indigenous based out in Ottawa. I'm personally excited to show you this playlist because it gives me that sense of feeling of being a res kid again and just soaking up everything that is my culture, my language, my traditions, all for the very first time again. Whether it's harvesting a moose for the first time, making your regalia for the first time, or for me, making your first piece of beadwork. This here is my first piece of beadwork, and I made it during a time when I was going through tough times, and I looked at this as a way to heal, and that's exactly what it did. But anyhow, I really hope you enjoy these stories as much as I did, and I really hope it gives you that sense of being a res kid too. So enjoy.
If I stop beading tomorrow, I'm content knowing that I had this experience and learned from my grandmother. Beading was always a part of my childhood and my community, and it was something I was always fascinated with. I was inspired, and I always wanted to learn, but it wasn't until I was 50 years old I learned from an Indigenous artist in Winnipeg. I remember my grandmother, and even my mother with her sewing materials, they kept their supplies in those little cookie tins, and you kind of always thought there was some chocolates or cookies in there, and you'd only find sewing supplies. I really thought about what my mom said many years ago. She said Granny had a pair of moccasins in a museum. So at that time, I inquired, giving the Manitoba Museum, Dr. Maureen Matthews, very limited information of my grandmother's name. With that limited information, Dr. Maureen Matthews took that and she found a collection of my grandmother's beading. It was emotional, finding my grandmother's work, because I always wanted to have a piece of, of her work. My most recent project is, I always say, I call it a project of love, because it's the most special project I've ever had an opportunity to do, was recreating my great-grandmother's elaborately beaded gauntlets.
When Cynthia approached us about the project to recreate, I was so excited for her, and so excited every time she came in to study these and color match all the beads. It was so incredible to watch her work and to chat with her about the work, and it makes me know a lot more about the collection too, so it's a learning thing for me as well. It
was a project where I wanted to ask others for help, but I wanted it to be a personal journey between my grandmother and I. And throughout the project, I felt her spirit was with me, and I let her spirit guide me and say, this is okay. There was times where I became frustrated because it is an elaborately beaded project. And I was thinking of my grandmother, and a lot of times I talked to her like she was there. And I said, oh, this is getting harder. I was frustrated, and it's like I would hear my grandmother say what she used to always say when we misbehaved when we were young. Oh, you foolish little girls. And, you know, like I thought of her saying that, and she would like tap our behinds a little bit. And, you know, that was like a memory that came up. And she was always so encouraging. This project too also really connected me to my siblings and to, like, we, you know, in visiting, we talked about our grandparents a lot. We, you know, talked about our childhood with them in our lives. Connecting with beadwork is just the most beautiful feeling in the world. It's where I feel content. And if there's something you love, follow that. Follow your heart. You don't know where that will take you.
Hey, my girl, how was your medicine picking with Coco?
It was very good. We picked sweetgrass, and while we were picking, she said that we are related to everything. What does that mean?
It's called Stories of the North. Actor Morris Cook is a fluent Cree speaker who plays Mushum, and two girls, including Maya Hoskins' fiddler seen here, play his granddaughters. In each episode, he teaches them a new Cree word and the cultural context.
This is phenomenal because as a Cree speaker, as we all know in this country, languages are dying at an alarming rate. That's not excluding Cree, even though we're the largest Indigenous speaking people in Canada, we're a threat too.
The show is about more than words. It explores the concept of each word and how it fits into the Cree way of life.
You're always asking,
Producers from Campfire Stories video production company say season 2 will focus on relationships with animals, the planet, and each other.
It's important that we pass on our knowledge. And a lot of times our knowledge and our traditions is always steeped in our language.
And I think it's pretty great that people my age and like people that are younger get to learn more like Cree language of kind of like what I'm learning.
We have for cranberries and Cree is
Cook says concepts such as Ogawe Masaki, Cree for Mother Earth, will help children understand the importance of preserving the environment.
My hope is that my children and their children and so on, generations down the line, will have some words that will survive on, and this is one way.
Wasqueechus.
Wasqueechus.
The new season will come out early next year. Ashwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
I don't know when the last time dogs actually were used here, and then we're just trying to keep this alive and keep this going for the younger one. As we're moving along, there'll be probably spectators here that'll be able to see us across from the lake here, and then we'll come across again south and then finish at home, and there's our finishing line right there. Don't be shy to like ask them questions, talk to them and say, hey, I'm Trevor. This is my first time here.
I feel a little bit nervous to like hearing the race is coming, you know.
Try to not think of it as a race. It's just us, the three of us, going out for a fun run.
My name is Felipe Gomez. I am a new Canadian originally from Chile, and I love exploring Canada with my camera. Today, I am at Ministiquin Lake, Cree Nation in northern Saskatchewan for a unique opportunity to film 3 inspiring mushers. Dr. Kevin Lewis is a land-based educator and sport enthusiast. Gary Schmidt is one of Saskatchewan's most competitive mushers, lead for his dogs and the rush he gets from the races. There is an exciting energy around rookies. Today is Trevor Kikatoway's first race. All eyes are on him and his dogs.
As soon as we got to the starting line, I've never seen all of my dogs that hyped up before. It was awesome.
This race is no walk in the park. Mushers must traverse a rugged 30-mile course while carefully monitoring the dog's speed and energy level. Today's deep snow conditions, frozen rain, and limited visibility add an extra layer of complexity to the competition.
What I'm worried about is maybe a trail could look like the actual dog trail itself, and it could be a skidoo trail. So hopefully it doesn't veer off too far.
Right now, this driver, I'll do it. Very good. Right on. An hour into the race, Trevor finds himself in the lead position, while Kevin and Gary trail behind. But problems arise.
I have to get off and hook every dog, hold every dog. It's a lot of work, but we got it done. I was really telling my dogs that, go ahead, straight up, And then after that, my dogs, they were just like, no, we're gonna stay at this pace.
We're 2 hours into the race. Visibility is really low right now. All the mushers are trying to stay together to not get lost in the tracks. But there's snowmobiles all taking care of each other. This is what I love about this. It's about community. You can see them. If somebody got a problem, they all stop, they all help each other. It's beautiful to see.
My dogs veered to the right and wanted to follow the skidoo trail, and then I got onto the actual trail, but I was going counterclockwise where I was supposed to go clockwise.
As a consequence, Kevin is out of the race, but his mission is bigger than that.
And it's the cultural link is important to me, because toboggan, tapagan is what we call it in Cree, and the wolf and Wisagitag were the ones that traveled like that all over the world. Those type of stories I want to pass on to Garrick and Trevor.
Similar conditions push Trevor to leave the race as well.
I felt pretty defeated. I really wanted to stay. I had lots of fun and it was a really good experience out there.
After a heart-pumping 2 hours and 39 minutes, Gary Schmidt is the only one of this group of friends to complete the event. Today's race marks Trevor's initiation into the exciting world of mushing.
Trevor's first race, he did amazing, and he was probably thinking like, okay, this is probably something maybe I can do differently. He's gonna ponder this first race for a long time.
We're scraping all the fur off, and then we have to turn it over and scrape the flesh off. So we're done on this side, I think. After we soak it, we'll start on the other side.
Our ancestors did it, and when they're up here, you hear them tell stories about what they remember seeing their grandmothers do or their mums, and they never took the time to learn. I'm Agnes Francis. I'm from Fort McPherson. I'm glad that more and more people are wanting to learn, and when we're up here, they gain new relationships with other parents, and the kids get to play freely and form relationships themselves.
I probably wouldn't do it if I couldn't bring my kids with me. I make lots with it. I use mine in my sewing. I sew a lot of bags, so I incorporate my own moose hide into the bags. That's part of what I've been doing with my moose hide.
I love being out on the land. Like, I have a camp 5 minutes from McPherson, and pretty much every weekend I'm there.
Yeah, there was more caribou skins from the fall community hunt that they did. And so we thought we'd try caribou skin tanning this year in the spring. Caribou is a lot smaller and a lot thinner and really easy to work with and handle by yourself. So one person could work with a caribou hide. Our grandmas that used to work with moose hide, it used to just be them by themselves.
A fancy regalia is a regalia of many that you could make for the powwows down there. So there's many different dancers, like your cultural dancers, your jingle dress dancers. Your fancy dancers is a little bit more elaborate than your traditional dancers. They say, like, when we have the powwow, you dance and you pray. So it's a part of our culture, our tradition. Yeah. A lot of times when people come in and they want to dance, or they're going to do like a ceremony with it, they want to implement like their family history or maybe a loved one that's passed on. The design comes from the individual person that wants them. So this one here I just made for myself for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. But there's also little kids that come in, they want to have a butterfly. I just recently done one for, like, as a unicorn for a toddler. And then you sit down, you talk with them, and you ask them like what their favorite color is, what their favorite animal is, and then you start to implement it into your piece of art, which it is, in the end, it's their artwork, yeah. When the powwows first started coming here, so that was about 27 years ago, and a lot of the regalias were very, you know, just plain, straightforward. There wasn't, and it was new to everybody then too. So we had a lot of dancers come from different parts of the province to come down and dance. And I just noticed that there was hardly anyone there dancing from our own community. So I ended up asking my boss, I was like, you know, can we do something about this? Like, we need to get these fancier regalias and get our dancers out there. And she was so encouraging. She's like, sure, let's do it. I only had one order. So it didn't take off very well. Not at first. In the second year, I may have had 2 or 3 orders. But by the third year, I was like booked a year in advance. And I did go down on the powwow ground, and it was really nice to stop and look and see all the little ones there dancing in the regalias, and they were having such a good time. And then you see like the moms of the kids that are dancing, and they got regalias on that you made for them. By the third year, when we went down there, our dancers were just lining, and it just went on forever. And it was a moment, I'm not gonna lie. It was like oh my God, I think I had a little cry there, yeah, for sure. It was a beautiful sight to see. At the end, I'm just trying to take their vision and put it on fabric. And sometimes it's really hard because they don't have the words to say or express what they want on it. So it's up to you to really pick that apart and try to come up with this piece of artwork that represents who they are. So every single one is so difficult to do. I don't want to miss up on it, you know? This is who they are. They're representing something like who they are and what they believe in their regalia. And when you open up the shawl and you wait for their reaction, like I said, you're just waiting, like, is this what they had pictured? So far, for the last 17 years, I've managed to do okay, but I don't know. Yeah, every time so far, they're like, oh yes, okay, that's exactly what I was, okay.
I've never seen this much beadwork and that many designs.
It's kind of like having a piece of history come home.
I think it's amazing to like look at it and know that we can recreate it.
It's sitting in front of you right here. How does it feel?
It's almost unbelievable that it's actually finished, because there's just so many hours of work and just like, yeah, 2 beads at a time.
It's exciting and then sad at the same time, but it was such a beautiful experience, and getting to see a lot of the designs that my ancestors did that I never even knew about.
The original, I remember my mother showing me photos of it, and it kind of just always like, the picture of it was always around when I was like younger. So like everything was like always inspired by like the Mi'kmaq designs.
At least right now there's names and faces to bringing this kind of style and beadwork back, because the ones who had originally made the original one, they only knew them as just 3 individuals, and their names at the time in history weren't honored or anything. It was created. And so I think in another sense that this is another way to, you know, honor the ones who made this beautiful project.
So when they said we're going to have 3 different designers come in, you guys work as a team, I was all for it.
So why did you want to pursue this project or get involved in recreating this iconic piece?
It's insane to be able to like work on a piece that was so like historical, and like it's actually a piece that I've referenced my entire life, like with everything that I do, and it has inspired like all the designs that I've ever created. And so being able to like actually learn from the ancestors, even though it's been 180 years, is actually amazing.
I thought this was such a beautiful and wonderful opportunity to recreate our ancestors' pieces, to hopefully inspire a lot of the young people who possibly thought like me about having questions and curiosity of what we had. So bringing back a little bit of history was my biggest inspiration on this project.
And it's funny because there's some times where we'd be working on the coat and it's kind of like we feel that we're surrounded by our ancestors as we create it. But yeah.
Can you describe to me the process of actually beading these elements of the coat?
First, on paper, we make our templates, like the designs, and then we transfer them over using transferable, like tracing paper for material. We trace it all on, and then the beads are put on like 4 at a time. So each bead on here, it's counted, it's laid flat, it's stitched down.
Every piece on the garment is very different, so you can see, like, as a beader and a designer, you can tell other people's signatures. So sometimes it made me question if there was really just 3 people, because each piece on the entire outfit and garment are all different. So you can see all the different styles. There's so many different styles and signatures on these pieces.
It's time consuming. Not as hard or complicated, but it's just time consuming. Each double curve would take us about 2 to 3 hours.
Going from each pattern, each design very carefully and making sure that we got every little piece done. And just the material used, a lot of it was new, very new to me. I never knew how to work with details and like ribbon work and thread work, but yet with each piece is so intricate, and the designs in it was just like, it's so breathtaking. Like, I can't even really talk about it because it's like, boom.
We were starting to lose our culture because of like residential schools, and just lost touch with our beadwork and stuff. And now it's coming back really strong.
If that original coat wasn't made, I wouldn't have, like, obviously this wouldn't be here. And probably that inspiration wouldn't be there. So in a sense, that was the original piece kind of saved my inspiration about my culture.
Well, I knew my mom said I was the last one that she carried in this Tikanagan.
Martina Fisher is a middle child of 23 kids, but she was the last baby in her family to be carried in this Tikanagan.
The Tikanagan is what the women use to carry their babies, my mom also said it was a teaching. It was a teaching tool, yeah.
It's where babies first learn from their moms, and Fisher estimates her family's Tikanagan to be around 85 years old. But in preparation for Manitoba's centennial celebration, it became the property of a museum in St. Boniface.
They went to communities to pick up artifacts from people, and my mom said they approached her and they wanted a Tikanagan. They offered her $30 for it, and for $30 it stayed in the museum.
The current curator of the museum says she is aware that Fisher's family started writing letters for the Tikanagan's return as early as the 1970s, and the sale of it may not have been above board.
Found out that it was acquired in a bit of a dodgy way, and it seemed like it was a bit coaxed out of the family, and so we decided that it shouldn't be with us and it should be with them.
And so now it's back in Fisher's home.
I feel a lot closer to my mom and dad because it's part of us, it's part of me, so it's something, it's a puzzle that you put back. You find puzzles for your life, and this is one of them.
The family has invited the museum to take part in a welcoming home ceremony. Leonard Monkman, CBC News, Winnipeg.
My name is Melissa Peter Paul. I'm a quill artist from Ebagut, Gizidasik, Wabanaki. Up until about 6 years ago, we didn't have anybody quilling on the island. My cousin, she's from here, but she lives in Nova Scotia. So when she taught me, I was the first quiller to start back up. So it's been 6 years since I've been doing quill work. So I took that workshop with her and just wanted to keep learning. And as soon as I picked up the quills, it was like, this is what I was meant to do. And you know, you wait all your life to find out what do you want to be when you grow up, and that moment I was like, this is it. It just felt like that puzzle piece was missing. You know, I started doing quill work, I felt like everything was just, my puzzle came together, and I felt like this is what I was meant to do. And the ancestors' presence when I do quill work is so strong. I get all my quills in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. So I make trips, special trips over just to collect roadkill off the side of the road. Yeah, so I usually take the roadkill, the porcupine, I put it in a cooler, and I'll take it to a safe spot where I can pluck the porcupine. So it is difficult because if I was a quiller in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, I'd have porcupine, you know, anytime I wanted. But if I can't get it, then I'm grateful that I can do trades with people, just like my ancestors would have done, you know. My great-great-grandmother, she was a quill artist. So I had the opportunity to go view her quill work in Halifax in the archives and in the museum. So it's a couple generations ago, but being able to follow in her footsteps, I have so much pride that I'm able to look off of her quill work pieces and, you know, and get something from it and be able to keep it going. It's important to me to make the authentic Mi'kmaq quill work and the quill work boxes because I'm getting that stronger connection when I do it. And that's what keeps me going. And that's when, you know, the ancestors are giving me more information because I don't have a teacher. So when I'm sitting there with those old quill pieces, it's almost like I'm jumping into a time machine. I've always been really drawn towards the 8-pointed star. Since I was really young. I remember my first regalia had 8-pointed star on there, and then just every year I'm learning something new, but that connection with the 8-pointed star is really strong. I prick myself every time I quill. My fingers are pretty rough, so they don't really get too far anymore. But my son, he could walk down the hallway and get pricked with a porcupine quill, and he's like, "Mom!" But I have people that still encourage me to keep this going, and they support me on that journey. So now we have about 5 or 6 quillers on the island now. So hopefully this encourages more Mi'kmaq youth, Mi'kmaq women, and to start back up making more quill work and more quill boxes, and then next generation will have 20, 30, 40. That's my hope. My children are all a part of my process for quill work. They see a porcupine on my step and they're like, "Oh, hey, Mom's working today." This is their normal, and and that's what I want for my grandchildren, for that to be passed down. So my boys will be quillers.
I'm Gabriel Frey, Baskanamukad basket maker, Gizidasig Wapanakik. I am I say 13th generation. I grew up in a family of basket makers. We've always made baskets. I didn't really start making baskets until I was around 18. And that was when my grandfather was diagnosed with emphysema. I kind of got a sense of the precious nature of the work that has always been in the family, but suddenly there's this time frame on how much I can learn, right? When you get, your grandfather has 3 years to live, okay, that's a whole life of knowledge that you need to now cram into it. Our creation story is based in black ash, right? We have the mythical figure of Gluskap, who shot an arrow into an ash tree, and within the heart of the tree was Wabanaki people.
It's actually part of the fabric of who we are, and that's why it's so sacred to us, and that's why we always try to protect the resources that mean so much to us. My ancestors found out that ash was a very strong material, that can make bows, it can make tools, it can make a lot of things for their everyday survival out of ash. And one of those things were baskets.
I broke a couple of axe handles before I actually figured out how to do it. It's incredibly labor intensive, and it's a very difficult process. But within that, it embeds those lessons deeper. They're not just objects, right? Like, each basket has a job that carries through its own life. It has its own life.
There's one story I think of, and that's Charles Solomon. When he couldn't pound the ash anymore, he still didn't want to give up. He got people in the community to donate Venetian blinds to him. What he would do is he would take the Venetian blinds apart and he would still weave baskets out of Venetian blinds. That was so inspiring to me because, if it wasn't for the fact that you love making baskets so much that you would, if you can't use a traditional material, you would actually go to a non-traditional material to create something. He made art out of necessity because he just didn't want to stop doing what he loved, right? And I always wanted to make just a big silver basket, so I started to make this one here. And this one here really reminded me of Wolastoq, the river. The double curve on the bottom really is the water, right? But the actual shape of this basket is kind of like a water drop. So I really wanted this basket to reflect Zamagwin, which is water. It's all based in traditional knowledge, but we have so many artists now that are really seeing the value in that traditional knowledge and then learning it and then taking it beyond what it was ever used for.
So it's literally like taking parts of our traditional homeland, our culture, and sharing that with people. And when it's used, that's the sharing. That's the part of our culture that remains alive, right? I mean, that's kind of the purpose of not only art, but also culture.
When we started the garden, it was just a good way to not only like have the youth like interact with the medicines, but also we get to learn about like the different plants that like our ancestors used to grow. Hi, my name is Harmony Ishkakagan. I'm from Wikwemikong. I live here in Ottawa in Algonquin Territory. My clan is Pike, and I'm also an Anishinaabe woman. We actually just wanted like a place to do our garden. This garden wood park, they were so nice to actually offer us a 10-foot square garden. When they found out that we were growing medicines and it was like a bunch of our Indigenous youth super excited, they eventually let us get a bigger plot for our Three Sister garden. And we just keep on growing our garden, so it's really cool. It's like very rare though to see sage, and that's actually one of our most used medicines at A7G. It's one of our most requested medicines, so it's really cool that we actually are able to grow some here, even though they're not like naturally. One of my favorite plants that we're growing here is wingash, which just means sweetgrass. That is also one of the 4 sacred medicines. It always like reminds me of home. Whenever I'm with the sweetgrass, I always think of my dad and basically the 7 generations of my past. So when we braid the sweetgrass, the first strands of 7 strands of sweetgrass, it's actually to honor our 7 generations of the past. Then the second 7 strands is usually supposed to represent like your present, so kind of where you are now, and reminding you of like the 7 grandfather teachings. Then their next 7 bunches is for the 7 generations that are yet to come. So that's like when I'm doing all this medicine harvesting and how our garden keeps growing, I think about all the future youth that are going to be with A7G, and not just next year, but for the next 7 generations, and how they're going to benefit as we continue to grow this garden.
My name is Gerald Zong. I come from Opipwan Napiwin Cree Nation. I am OG Cree, or Ojibwe and Cree. I started helping out with the garden last year. My grandmother actually had a little garden in her backyard, and she was like a very had a green thumb, if you will, like really good at growing different types of things. So we always had rhubarb, carrots, potatoes. She passed away in 2016. So when I went back for her funeral, I got to see a place where I grew up, and it was like one of those things. I was like, you know what, I want to garden again. So we got abalone here as a shell we usually use for smudging. This one was gifted to me by my mom, and it's part of my little medicine bundle. So when I go anywhere with my medicine, I walk in a good way, hopefully to gain more knowledge, because a lot of it's been taken away from us through the history of Canada. I take care of these like they're my grandparents, whenever I put them down gently, and when I take them with me, it just gives me that a really good understanding of where I came from and where I'm going.
My name is Annalyn Jones. I'm Ojibwe from Garden River First Nation. Grew up here in Ottawa, actually in the West End. One of the first big events that I helped out with from A7G back when I first started helping out was we had a big fall feast, and we probably fed about 200 people, and we were just cooking all day actually at the Bronson Center. Me and Gerald actually were cutting carrots for 2 hours, and our fingers were turning orange just to put them in all the dishes, and it felt really nice to be able to cook for people. I'm not a very good cook, but I tried my best, and we tried to include as much traditional Indigenous food, and that always makes people happy when they can have that food here in the city.
I love it. Oh my God, look at this guy.
How many of you have skinned a bear before? Nobody? We need to respect and honor that sacrifice that the first Musqueam gave us to bring us strength. We've slowly been losing that sustainability and that food security as we've been colonized and westernized. So now we rely on the grocery store. So we're trying to instill it in our new generation that we can go back to where we're not relying on the grocery store, because we have everything we need is out there.
I had sat down with one of the elders before, and there are so many
Like so many First Nations are losing their identity, their ways of living and traditions, right? I never had so much traditional foods when I was younger because I lost that identity, right? And I didn't want the students to lose that. We have moose heart going, moose nose. We're going to have fried meat and bannock. I wanted to consult with the elders too, what other wild game we could bring in. We tried doing bison. We did deer. We brought in salmon. But the one thing that the students loved were the moose meat. The majority of our wild game is moose meat. What it states on the certificate is we could serve, store, and cook the wild game in the schools. And that certificate has to be hung up in the kitchen where everybody could see. Our hunters had to be trained. We had to teach them how to fill out these forms. Same with our cooks had to learn how to fill out these forms. Right now I'm kind of speechless, because we are leading the way to bring all this back.
Hi, I'm Janelle Henry. I'm a reporter with CBC Indigenous. I'm Ojibwe from Rosa River Anishinaabe First Nation, and I'm based in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The story you're about to watch is called Why Res Radio Has Our Hearts. And this story is close to my heart because I got my start in media at Res Radio back in high school. So what I hope you take away from this is just how much meaning these little stations can create for those that are creating them and for those that listen to them. So enjoy right here on CBC Explore. So where are you from?
Island Lake, Manitoba.
Island Lake, and where are you from?
I am from Fisher River, Manitoba.
And where are you from?
South Indian Lake, Manitoba.
Okay, so what was your first experience with Res Radio?
My first experience, just background noise pretty much, and my kukum would always listen to it, and I don't know, she would turn it on in the morning right away and we'd just hear it in the background all the time, and I don't know, just the same music and the voice, and I don't know, it's just memories now when I hear it now being grown up, and it just feels kind of nostalgic.
It's Tanager at 904-7252. Let's get back to some more music here on BON FM. Here's some Timberland with Justin Timberlake and Nelly Furtado here on BON FM 90.9.
It's only been just over a year since 90.9 BON FM hit the air in the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. And right around that same time, Mike Maple started his dream job.
Res Radio is different just on the community aspect of, being Nietzsche native and passing that knowledge on.
On air, he's known as Uncle Mike, and he loves to play and listen to music all day long.
Hey everybody, welcome back to BON FM 90.9. That was Ariana Grande with No Tears Left to Cry. I hope you guys are having a good time.
He also does news announcements, makes commercials, and does live hits out in the community. He is the only person working at this radio station, and he takes every opportunity to get others on the air.
Tacos, if you guys want to call it, be specific about it. But we need our people in the media because not only it builds jobs, it builds truth, and we can get our stories and stuff out there.
There are just over 150 Indigenous radio stations in Canada. Some have been in operation for over 40 years, and some are just starting.
First time I heard it was when I went with my cousin to visit his grandparents in Peguis.
Oh, yeah.
And they were listening to the radio and doing bingo. I think a song that reminded me of back home would be Ernest Monius, If I Wanted You, Girl.
Can you sing it a little bit for us? Just kidding.
No.
Just kidding.
Oh, girl.
There we go, yeah. So what's some songs you would always hear?
Oh, you always like Hank Williams and all the old tunes, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what because they go by more of the like the older generation, right? Like what they want to listen to. Because a lot of the young kids, they want to listen to hip hop and well, there's stuff that you can't understand.
Even the bougie Nietzsches reminisce about Res Radio.
Like any AC/DC.
I was just gonna say any AC/DC is a classic.
Yeah, like Thunderstruck for sure.
Another fan of AC/DC, musician Garrett T. Willie, points to some older but classic Res jams.
Indian Car, I think. I used to hear that quite a bit, and it wasn't played on very many other radio stations, so that comes to mind. A lot of John Fogerty, Bob Seger, Taking Care of Business, Randy Bachman, of course.
Res Radio is basically just a radio station on the res, like BON FM, but with very little oversight to operate. Mostly anything goes. That's because back in the late 70s and early 80s, the CRTC recognized the need for Res Radio and thought of ways to make it more accessible for remote First Nations.
And so when you were out there, did you listen to their radio stations?
Well, you had no choice. What else are you going to listen to? Wi-Fi is crap. So.
Would people call in?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
What kind of things did you hear on there?
A lot of crazy stuff.
Stations could be set up as long as they're not interfering with other commercial stations and weren't broadcasting too far away from the res. And because these stations are limited in human resources, they aren't required to do a lot of the paperwork, like keep music logs. That way, the res stations can just focus on their programs, supporting community efforts and language.
So we're going to do a Buffalo Bingo, get that going for the radio station to start generating money into the radio and into the community. Once we get that going as well, we're going to start employing people weekends, evenings, nights, on locations and everything like that too. Everything in between.
But Maple envisions a future where these stations are more connected with each other to share news and information more widely. He says it would be good because so many of us have connections to more than one First Nation.
Be that brother-sister relationship where we should all be coming together instead of trying to be separate individuals and in different radio rooms where we should, if we all come together, our news, our music, everything gets out there.
Yeah. It's waking up in the morning with my grandparents. It's all you would hear. Saturday mornings cranking up the fiddle tunes or Johnny Cash, all the old singers.
Someone who knows a little something about operating Res Radio is Pat Richard. Richard is one of 4 DJs from Sandy Bay First Nation Res Radio 106.3 FM. He started volunteering 12 years ago, the same day the station opened up.
I'm William Patrick Richard. I'm a DJ of Sandy Bay, our community. If you want to listen to 106.3 FM, just tune into sandybayradio.net. That's all you gotta do. All the good music's there.
It was August 23rd, 2011 at noon when Sandy Bay Radio first hit the air. As soon as he heard it, he drove straight down to what he now calls his radio shack to be nosy and hasn't left since.
But I loved it. I still love it. That's why I'm still here. I don't think I'd like to quit this job. I love it.
Richard is on the air early in the morning, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Requests for George Jones, Don Williams, and Charlie Major come in all the time from Sandy Bay and beyond.
So when you hear one of those songs, how does it make you feel?
It takes you back to my younger days. That's how I feel. I go, whoa, now I'm 15 again. I had to start giving her,
And with the help of the internet, he has listeners from all around the world as far as Greenland and Afghanistan.
All these songs tell stories, and the people that request songs, you could feel the people out there that call in for requests, how they feel, how they go, and how they move along.
He also makes sure to play Indigenous artists like the Dodium Boys, Delaney Moniaz, and the Masu Boys. While he does have the occasional fiddler or singer-guitar player in, he'd like to see his Radio Shack expand a bit more so that he can have full bands live on air. As a musician himself, Richard would like to promote the local talent as much as he can. He also takes the time to include Ojibwe.
Yes, I do speak in my language. I'll do the weather in my language. I'll speak it out in my language, what the weather's like, and I speak the time. Like right now, Ajana Simidna Sidabeganeska Ukwasam Das Washabejik Sidabain. 11:30 is the time, is what I said.
At the end of the day, these two DJs are living out a dream.
I've never worked since I started because I'm loving what I'm doing, and that's just a great place to be.
I love the music. The people love the music. The people are awesome. You know, beautiful people out here in Santa Bay. I got lots of family out here.
Through the airwaves and beyond. Santa Bay.
All the way. That's what we always say.